This is all just too much to take in, actually, compared to when I first started preaching. There was me and a laptop. I didn't know who was on the other side. There were days I wondered whether there was anyone on the other side. So all my questions were just rhetoric. So I asked the questions, I gave the answers, and then I mocked those answers. He was just on a Skype call. The only reassurance I had that there were some people on the other side was from time to time I could hear people snoring. In a very funny way that was reassuring. At least they showed up. For a good few months, I think that's how it just went along. Until 3 people showed up in person. So then there was a Skype call, and then there were 3 people. And they were all 3 of them were siblings. So only one family. 1 brother and 2 sisters. That brother is today Dharamdas Sahandru, who you all know very well. The 2 sisters are still on the way. And then the very first English sermon I did to an audience was, I think, in Australia, on the way back to Sri Lanka for good. We stopped over in Australia, and there was one talk that I did there. It was mostly children. It is often like that in those countries. The parents, they are well versed in Sinhalese, but the second generation, they're not so much. So the parents hope that I can help sort their children out. So we did that once or twice. And then landed in Sri Lanka. And after that it was back to it was not the Skype sermons after that. No, they were again for a good few months, and after that we started going on YouTube. But they were also just recorded sermons, so that was not streaming live on YouTube. We were just recording them, and because we had no internet connection at the monastery, there was no way of streaming those sermons live. Every recorded sermon had to then be quite literally transported to a location where we had some connectivity, and then slowly and painstakingly uploaded, which in those days took several hours. That was long before fiber came along. Actually, there was just those wingles you plug into your laptops. But even that, there was no connectivity at the monastery. We didn't have cell towers. If you were lucky if you could make a call from within the monastery, which is a rubber plantation back then. I remember there were days when it was too difficult to venture out into either Rajagiriya or Avisavella on the other side. There was just one place in the whole of the monastery grounds, which was right at the top of one of the hills. Well, hills to us, not so much hills, but you had to get there, you had to get through this thick forest of rubber trees and lots of leeches. So it was as much a Dhamma donation as much as it was a blood donation. So Dhamma Dhanang and Rudira Dhanang, blood donation at the same time. So that's how things started. So sometimes, all of this is just too much to take in, really. So I never complain about these things not working. Just the fact that we have them, working or not, is in many ways a luxury. Then a few people started coming, visiting the monastery. Just very, very small pockets. It was mainly visitors, tourists from other countries. I don't like calling them foreigners, it just sounds very foreign. Visitors from other countries. So very ad hoc sessions we used to have, sharing what little Dhamma I'd understood by then. With them in words, I was just still finding my feet as to how to express what I had understood in this language. Not a language fault, but my fault. Didn't quite know which terms to use and how to give each word new meaning. Today we talk about dukkha, but you understand dukkha is not dukkha. It's not suffering. It's something else. So that was how things started to take pace, and then you know what happened next. We had the monastery at the server on Saturday mornings. So a few of you started first appearing there. Before then we had Aranmatiniara in Colombo. So we had Aranmatiniara of the Venerable Dhammaloka Nayaka. So we visited there, did some sermons there. Some faces I think I still remember from when we were there. That we did for a few months, and then the monastery. And then we had more and more people coming in, and the monastery became more popular, I became less popular. So there came a point where I decided I could probably now hand over the reins to the monks. Dasahandru took over. And then this started. When this started, I can't remember how many we had for the first sermon. 20? 30. 30. 30 of you were there. That's okay, right? When he first did his first sermon, there were only 5. Wasn't it? So to have 30, 6 times more. 5 times more at least. So in fact, when Dr. Allast first took me to the room, I said, this is too big. We won't need this larger hall. Just give me a classroom. I said, what about the one opposite the corridor? That's big enough. We won't have that many. But then you happened. You couldn't keep it to yourselves. What are you like? Keeping secrets? Terrible. You couldn't keep it to yourself. You started inviting your friends and family and colleagues, strangers, started becoming friends. And then this community evolved from that. There were some who watched the sermons online, on the social media platforms. They came for the sermon but stayed for the sandwich. Came for the sermon but stayed for the community is what I meant to say. And then we have what we have here today. So remember we had the smaller hall, when that hall was occupied, exams and whatnot. That wasn't large enough, then it came to a point where it was too small. But the school was very kind to even put blinds on the windows, remember? Because when it was quite sunny, the sun used to fall in your eyes and it used to get a bit warm and it was a bit uncomfortable for you, so they put blinds. But then I think not much later after that, who's that? Guru Hamru is here. Right, then I'll take my leave then. Toramoru atra mana hal mess. This is exactly what happened when I handed things over to Dasahandru. So I think it's time now. You're very subtle at how you express things, isn't it? So anyway, this happened and now we are here. One day this hall will not be big enough. Then we'll work something out. There's another one outside. There's a basketball court outside. There's a bigger auditorium. Are we building one? They're building one just for Gateway to Nibbāna. So by that time that hall is done, you just make sure that there's enough people to fill that, that's all. So right now there's a hall being built at the monastery, an auditorium, to accommodate up to 6,000 people. I mean, the monastery's residents are already close enough to 1,000. We just need to find 5,000 more. And that's before Samanta Chakkavale. So fortunately, they don't take up space. Isn't it? The long and the short of it is, the more people come across the Buddha's teaching, the more people realize that this is what they've been looking for. That's the only thing that's happened in your lives. You were all lost and destitute. You were all looking for hope. And the moment we saw a glimmer of hope and saw that here there's a real answer to our life's problems, then I don't need to convince you anymore. You're self-convinced. No one had to cajole you to come into here, come into this room, or to come and join this community. The most that would have happened is probably, someone might have sent you a link, perhaps, given you a ride, and said, just come for one and see whether it's for you or not. You showed up one day, liked it, thought you'll try a second day, liked it, and decided you'll stay for the third day, and so on. That's how it happened. So the Dhamma is the real miracle here, honestly. The Dhamma is the real miracle, the truth. We are all here because we are truth seekers. And that is why you're still here. Because the novelty wears off, right? If you're here for the novelty, that wears off. This same Monantadu every day, the excitement of that wears off. Now I know that, some of you don't even get time to come and talk to Swami Nwanse. Some I have seen worship from a distance and walk because there's too many people. Some very briefly. Some don't get to talk at all. But that is enough conviction that you're not here for that. You're here for the truth. You're here for freedom. You're freedom fighters. That is the beauty of this all. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm in the Sasana. I like Guru Handru. I loved him and love him still to pieces, but why I'm in the Sasana is because of the Dhamma. Guru Handru is the one who gave me the Dhamma, yes. But I'm here because of the Dhamma. And the Dhamma is healing me. And I feel I'm a better human being than I used to be. I'm happier. I'm content. Today I will talk to you and I'll explain to you what contentment actually means. So you are fortunate in the sense that we had a conversation on the way here with Sasana. What is contentment? What true contentment is and why it's impossible to become content through material acquisition. By gaining and acquiring and hoarding material things, why it's impossible to do that. So let's talk about that. But this was the preamble of how we all got here. Some of you don't know this story. Some of you joined somewhere along the way. That's okay, as long as you're on this bus, doesn't matter where you hopped on, we're all going to hop off, get off at the stop, final stop. So it doesn't matter where you got onto the bus. And there's plenty. Sometimes to take that first jump, it requires a lot of courage. When there's very few people, it takes a lot of courage. But when there's a growing community, that gives you some confidence. That's why I always feel like, those who jumped in, when there were a sizable community here, must always remain grateful that there was a community here to convince you that there's something right here. Whereas the first few people who walked in, they knew nothing about this. They just came in to take a risk, and somehow it worked out. That's why when I joined the Sasana, there were lots of monks in the Sasana. But the 5 ascetics at the beginning, just imagine that. When they came after the Buddha, when the Buddha had already abandoned them, to somehow come and have the conviction to sit down in front of him and listen to him, that's just something on another level. That is paramita. Those things happen out of paramita. Many lives worth of practice, that connectedness that we feel between each other. Okay, let's bring our palms together then. Let us make our most reverential and deepest veneration to the perfectly enlightened one. He who is the fount of wisdom and the epitome of compassion. Let us remind ourselves that he is the greatest teacher that we have ever seen and ever come across, the master of the universe, he who has shown us the truths and has promised us that the same bliss that he once experienced awaits all of us. Therefore, let this not be a mere token of our veneration or obeisance, but a pledge of our allegiance to the noble triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, which represent the ultimate destination, the truths that we must understand to get there, and the practice that we must individually undertake to get to that destination. Let us also observe the 5 precepts, and let us also invite the countless sentient beings who have sufficient merits to be amongst us today, and they just await our invitation to join us and be amongst us. May they witness this meritorious deed as it unfolds, and may such merits help them to be reborn in the blissful plane if they are today in the woeful plane. And for all beings in the blissful plane, may this serve them as an opportunity to free them from suffering once and for all. And may all of us make use of this opportunity to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. So with that in mind, let us make a start to today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. What we're going to talk about today is going to touch on several things we have discussed recently. So hopefully you remember some of our recent conversations. Do we have any first timers in the audience? Give me a show of hands. Okay, thank you. But this will all make perfect sense as soon as it makes sense. You'll only struggle until then. See how wise things I say in these sermons? I'm going to try and help you to understand why contentment seems impossible. And it is impossible. But the reason for that is very important as we understand this. You are still going after your material wealth, possessions, because you have not understood these truths. If you could be freed from your duties and obligations, assume that there was someone who would step in to fill your shoes, fill your boots. Just assume someone comes forward and says, I will take on all your duties and responsibilities. You are free to go forth. If you still wish to remain in the livelihoods and keep to this lifestyle that you have today, it is because of your lack of understanding of the Dhamma. So fortunately, there is no one who comes forward to take on these responsibilities from you. Therefore, you can always use that as your scapegoat. Yeah? What to do, Swaminathan? Duties, Swaminathan. Responsibilities, Swaminathan. For the ladies, if you are this side of 40, which side is that, the right side or the wrong side? I don't know. If you are this side of 40, and you are free of your duties and responsibilities, but if you still wish to remain in the lifestyle that you are so accustomed to, I believe it is because you have no or very little understanding of what I'm going to explain to you today. So why am I explaining it to you today then? I'm going to explain this to you in the hope that I can make some sense, that you can make some sense, and you can reevaluate the purpose of your lives. For the gents, well, we have set the margin a bit higher for them. So again, I sometimes wonder whether that is the reason that they still wish to remain. Live your lay life to the max. Live this hellhole of a life to the maximum possible before you take that jump, because after that, there's no hope. And I use that word quite responsibly. Why I call it a hellhole, you will understand in a moment. We have talked about this idea of separation for quite a while now. So I'm going to need you to remind yourselves of this concept of separation, because our conversation starts there. What is separation? There's an object. The mind is born to perceive this object. But when this happens, where there is ignorance and attachment, the mind doesn't stop at perception that this is merely a body of what? Energy. Yeah. It doesn't stop at a body of energy. It entifies this. In other words, it separates this. What is the best proof that you have this process of separation is working within you? What is the best proof that you have? You feel yourself, exactly. You feel that you are a separate entity, don't you? Yes, we all feel that. We feel that we are a separate individual. We are individuals in and of ourselves. And we feel that we deserve an identity, and that identity has to be acknowledged by others. You don't feel that there's anything wrong with carrying an identity card, do you? No, we can't wait until we are 16 to get one for ourselves, right? 16 is still the age where they issue these. Yeah? So the moment you turn 16, you can get yourself an identity card, which is a formal acknowledgement that the state recognizes you as an independent individual. So until then, you were still, but there was no formal recognition of that. But now they formally recognize you as an independent individual. That gives you a sense of satisfaction. When you see any other individual, they are also a separate individual. So although you might not get married to yourself, not although you might not, you don't get married to yourself, you will get married to another person. You don't see any problem with that. You don't, right? Frankly, you don't see a problem with getting married. Just the whole concept of marriage makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yeah, it's perfect sense, makes perfect sense. Why does it make perfect sense? Because you're out of your... I didn't say that. You said that. I was going to say out of your... I don't know, something. I wasn't going to say out of your mind. The concept of marriage makes perfect sense to you because you're out of your senses. You're out of your mind. See, what is marriage? It is the union of what? Two separate individuals. I don't even need to say the word separate, because the word individual implies separation. Yeah? So marriage is the union of two individuals. And that seems perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Has anyone ever felt that there was something wrong with that? No. You might not like what happens after. The problems, the ups and the downs, and the lessons learned but soon forgotten, right? Those perhaps we forget, and life moves on. But the whole concept of marriage itself is almost divine. So we don't see anything wrong with that. You don't see anything wrong with that because you take for granted that this sense of separation is perfectly acceptable and normal. Seems very normal to you. I'll give you one more example. You have friends. We have friends. What is a friendship? It's a relationship, isn't it? Relationship between what? What is the wrong word? Relationship between whom? Two individuals. That's a friendship. So if you have friends, if you still have friends, you've been coming to these sermons for a long time, so maybe you don't, I don't know. But if you still have friends, what is that proof of? That you accept this concept of separation. That is fine. It's perfectly normal to have friends. And when you have friends, what else do you have? What's the other side of the coin? Enemies. People who you don't like very much. So all of these things seem very normal to us. Yes or no? Engage with me? Yes, they seem very normal to us. Why do they seem normal? It's because we don't stop at mere perception. That's why the Buddha has no friends. There's a difference between a friend and a noble friend. It's a different relationship. Noble friendship is always between two chittas. Friendship is between two individuals. See if that makes sense to you. Noble friendship is between two minds, two chittas, but friendship is between two individuals. Kalyana mitrata, that is between two chittas. And that chitta could be a chitta over there and a chitta over here, or a chitta over here and a chitta subsequent chitta. That can also be noble friendship. See, when they say love thy neighbor, it doesn't have to be a physical person. To every chitta, what is the next chitta? It's neighbor. So the best form of love that you can extend is the love that you show the next chitta. That is what you're doing right now. You're here to listen to the Dhamma, you're doing merits. See, think of that for a second. You're doing merits for what? What are you doing merits for? For happiness. But which chitta is going to experience that happiness? Some chitta later down the line, right? That is loving thy neighbors. So this next chitta can either be in this physical body or in another physical body. It doesn't really matter. But they don't have to be physical people. They don't have to be individuals. That's why I say, let's understand that friendship is between two or more individuals, but noble friendship or noble companionship, kalyana mitrata, is not between two individuals. It's between two minds. So I'm here not to make friends with you, because that doesn't serve you. There's no point to you. There's nothing for you to gain from my friendship. Quite literally, from my friendship, there's really nothing to gain. Do I invite you to for my parties? I mean, yesterday we had a birthday party. We did. Yesterday was Vesak. So we had a birthday party at the monastery. But, you can't, if you're stranded, you can't ask me for some money because I don't have any. I can't give you a ride on the way to work because I don't go to work and I don't have a car. So my friendship is really of no use to you at all. I have nothing to offer you in the name of friendship. So why do you then invite Swami Mahanse? For what friendship? Noble friendship. Because here's something that I hope you understand, that there's a mind here who has understood some truth about this world. And if that mind can share some of those truths with these minds, with you, the mind, then you can also experience the bliss that Swami Mahanse or this mind must be experiencing right now. With that trust, you invite noble companionship. Make sense? Right. So when you have ignorance and attachment then, ladies and gentlemen, what happens? The mind does not simply perceive an object as a body of energy, it entifies it, right? That's what we call separation. So I was giving you a few examples of what separation is and how we know that separation actually happens. Now, that's only the beginning. Here's what happens next. If you listen to this very attentively and you have sufficient merits to understand what I'm about to share with you, This sermon alone should be enough for you to renounce your worldly lives. I swear to you. If you can be freed of your duties and responsibilities, and you understand what I'm about to share with you today, I cannot see any other reason why you would still want to remain in a lay life. By a lay life, I don't mean a lay life. What I mean when I say a lay life is not a life where you are in a pair of trousers and a shirt. That's not what I mean by a lay life. A life devoted to materialism, to the ongoing process of acquisition, experiencing it, going through that process, basically samsara. If you understand what I'm about to share with you, and you can be freed of your duties and responsibilities, then your next stop should be the Sasana, quite simply. So let's make a firm resolve that you don't understand what I'm about to share with you. Because what if the worst happens? I know some people, they don't listen to the sermons. Some don't listen to the sermons because they're afraid that they might understand the Dhamma. You think that's an insult to the Dhamma? No, that's a true mark of confidence in the Dhamma. See, although you might be scared to go into your basement, right, in the middle of the night, you are not as scared to watch a horror movie. What's the difference? So there's a power failure. It's late at night, pitch black darkness, and to walk into the basement is one thing, but to watch a horror film at night is another. Because when you're watching the horror film, you know that it's not real. So it's okay. But actually taking this bold step of walking into the basement, maybe even after watching the horror film, not many people will be willing to do that. Because now there's a fear, a very real fear that what you watched, what you saw, might actually happen to you. Because you know that this is very real. You're actually walking in, right? That is your confidence that something could happen. So this is why some people don't listen to the Dhamma. Because they know that the Dhamma is very real and its impact is transformative. Therefore, they're very cautious about listening to the Dhamma. In case the worst happens. What's the worst? In case they feel like letting go of their lay lives and coming to the Sasana. So I always say hats off to them, because they are testimonies that the Dhamma is true and very potent. My glass is always half full. No matter how much you try to empty it, my glass is always half full. I always see the bright side. Are you ready now then? So here comes the big reveal. Let's talk about separation. I want you to think about what this word means to you. Separation. E or A? A. E. That's what I said. E. A. Oh. E for the E's, A for the A's, okay? All happy now? A. Oh, God. Okay, separation. Talk about coming to school and getting your spellings wrong. Right, separation. Think about what separation means to you now then. See how separate you were, split you were in terms of whether it was an E or an A. Right, now focus on what this word means to you. This, not the word itself, but the concept of separation. Okay, this is very interesting and very important. I'm not going to rush through this because I want you to really grasp this concept. Fireworks will start going off in your mind in a second if this makes sense. To separate something is to remove something from something else. So conjoined twins, when they're born, they are separated by a surgical procedure. That is to remove one twin from the other. Which twin have you removed from the other? Which twin have you removed from the other? That makes no sense, because separation is to separate, right? You take the two things apart. So you can't say which one has been separated from which, because it's just a matter of perspective. Yeah. So consider all these objects on this table for a second. So what's common about all these objects? They're all on the table, indeed. What have I just done? I've separated it. In that context, I have separated this. Does that make sense? In what context? What was common about them was that they were all on the table. All of these objects were on the table, and I have just separated it. I can do the same with another object. I have just returned that thing that was previously separated back to the table, and I've separated now the fan. Does that make sense to everyone? Put your hand up if that didn't make sense. Okay, good. Take these flowers for a second. For once we can put this to good use. Your floral decorations. No, they're always put to good use, aren't they? So you see a bunch of flowers. It's an arrangement of flowers. I take one flower. What have I just done? Separated it from what? The rest. We can call whatever remains the rest. What have I just done? I put it back. I could take a different flower from here. What have I just done? Separated it from the rest. So you see, when I separate something from the rest, there are now two categories of things in this environment. There is the object that I have separated, and there is the rest. Yeah? Okay. So the same, going back to the pen. So I take this pen into my hand. Now there is the pen and there's the rest. So you see, there are two things now, two categories. I'm going to introduce to you a third category. Actually, it needs no introduction. It's simply that you were not thinking about it. And you are already familiar with this third category. That is me. So actually there are three things, or three categories, three boxes into which I can put pretty much, I can literally put everything in this universe into three boxes. Three boxes. When I do this and take this object into my hand and separate it from the rest, there are now three boxes. What are those three boxes? What's in this box? The fan. Very good. There's the fan. What's in this box? The rest. What's in this box? Me. That's me. Me. So I am a permanent resident of this box. Because this box is always occupied for as long as there is ignorance. Yeah? So we're talking about the self now. That's why I said I want you to now draw on your previous lessons. It's important we do that. So I'm not talking to you today about how the sense of self comes into being, how ignorance and attachment works, how the defilement process works. We've talked about that. So that requires previous knowledge. Yeah? But do you agree on this idea? That whenever I separate something, there are three things in my world. There's me, the object that I have separated from the rest. Right. So there's a fan here now. This is the fan. If I take this flower, what's happened to the fan now? Where did the fan go? Indeed. So the fan's now here. I don't need to list them all out. I can simply call them the rest. So what was previously in this box is now in this box. What happened to this box? That's the same. What's in here now? The flower. How is it making sense so far? So far, so good? Right? Let's try one more. I'm going to put this flower back. The moment I did that, what happened to the flower? Into the rest box. And I take a leaf. Now what's in here? What happened to this leaf? Where did it come out of? It came out of the rest box. And it's gone into? It's gone to that box. What happened to this box? That's there. Put your hand up if that didn't make sense. Perfect. This is what we call jati. Okay? This is jati dhamma. Jati and jati dhamma. Once again, we talk about jati and jati dhamma. Jati is a sense of self. When you take any object into your hand, any object on this table into your hand, do you feel that you are that object? Do you ever feel that you are that object? Do you feel that you are the rest? No. Right? You are always your own being, aren't you? You're always your own self. That's a very separate thing to both of these. In fact, if you put them both into one box, this box is still a separate box. Agreed? Yeah, the self box is always a separate box. No one else occupies that space. You are the only resident in there. And you are permanently resident there. Is there ever a time you step out of this box? No. That day would be the day you become an? Good. So your sound, your knowledge is sound. It's just the practice. Right, quick recap again. There are three boxes. You have the jati box, which is that sense of self, which is always occupied and only occupied by you and no one else and nothing else. Okay? And then there are two more boxes. These two boxes, one of them is the object of your thoughts or the object of your mind. Whichever object you take into mind. So when you're thinking about this leaf, that is the object that goes in there. Does that make sense? When you're thinking about this leaf, so look at this leaf, everyone. Right. Which two boxes are filled now? Me and the leaf. When you look at the fan, this remains the same. Fan goes in there. Yeah. When you look at this pen, this remains here. and the pen goes in there. But there's also another box, which is everything else. Everything else that is not what? In this example, what is in this box? Everything that is not the leaf and me. Exactly. Are we good there? What's in the everything else box? Everything that is not in this box and this box. And this box is always me. So everything that is not me and the object of my thought is in the everything else box. So do you see then, whenever there's jati, there always is jati dhamma. There's always jati dhamma because the chitta doesn't arise without an object. A thought never arises without an object. Right? And we know what these objects are. They can only be one of 6 types. What are those 6 types? Sight objects, sound objects, smell objects, taste objects, touch objects, and thought objects. So it has to be one of these 6. So in here is which one of that 6, whichever one of that 6. But each thought will only have 1. Where's everything else in this world? Where's everything else in this world? In the rest box, or the everything else box. With the exception of me. Are we all good there? Yes? Kosher? Are we all good there? All right. Now, let me tell you the problem with this. There's a serious problem with this. Whenever you separate, whatever it might be, whenever you separate, your world is simply you and that object. Everything else is outside. It's a bit like this. Imagine we were all outside this room for a second, and I said, you can come into the room, but you can only bring one object. Or let me give you a more realistic example. You are invited to a party, but you can only bring one. So you can bring you and plus 1, but no one else. When that restriction has been placed on the invitation that you have received, you must now pick one from whom? From everyone, right? So one has to be special to you. That could be your spouse, it could be a sibling, could be a child, could be a friend, could be a colleague, but whoever it is, it has to be just one. Just one person is allowed. So everyone else has to stay back. No one else can come in with you. So if I go back to the example here, if I ask you to walk into this room with just one object, you can only bring one object. Your clothes count as objects. So you would not be able to come in. How can you come in with just one object? If each item of clothing was considered an object, you need a few just to cover your modesty. So you would not be able to walk into this room. You'd have to remain outside. So you get the idea? Right, now come back to the chitta. Whenever the chitta separates, it matters not, ladies and gentlemen, how many things you have to your name, how many things you have as your list of possessions, how wealthy you are, how much land you have, how many cars you have, how much money you have. It matters not. Whatever it is, whatever is that object, whatever that object is that that this chitta takes as the object for perception, the moment it separates that, please understand that it separates it from everything else. No, the penny hasn't dropped yet. It's okay. Let's take it one step at a time. I'll take you through an example which will help make more sense of this, right? Let's take the average person in this room. So most of you will have a house, a car, family. You'll have furniture. You'll have a TV. You'll have bits and pieces at home. You'll have a family, right? So there are quite a few things that surround you in your life. In a conventional sense, these are your assets. So when you work out someone's net worth, you can work out their asset worth, right? You can work out how much their assets are worth in the current market and work out a number and then put them into some kind of order and say he's the richest or she's the richest man in the world. Those with little assets, few assets or no assets, they are considered the poor. People like me, very poor. There's people like you who are very, very, very poor. No, net worth I'm talking about. Not worth, net worth. I'm not talking about not worth, I'm talking about net worth. So, take an example where you have 2 cars. Imagine you have 2 cars. They are both parked on the, the garage, right? You have 2 cars parked in the garage. When one car becomes the object of your attention, when that becomes the arambana, the object of your chitta, thanks to separation, or shall I rather say, cursed by separation, that car and you take up these 2 boxes. So you are permanently resident in this box. One of the 2 cars, whichever car has now become the object of your chitta, goes into that box. What happens to the other car? Where's the other car? In the everything else box, along with the neighbor's cars. Repeat after me. Along with the neighbor's car. So what was the point of acquiring 2 cars then? Boom. So what's your net worth again? No, let's keep it. Let's grow, right? Because 2 cars. Everyone has 2 cars, right? When it comes to certain class in society, everyone has 2 cars, right? To be a car owner, you have to have not 2 cars, but more like 5, 10. Now you're talking about a fleet. A fleet. When you start going even further, right? 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 cars. That's a lot of cars. Now you're serious about your cars. So let's say you one day become an owner of 100 cars. Right? You are the owner of 100 cars. So you walk into your I don't know what you call it. It can be called garages. A garage? Still a garage? Still a garage. Okay, massive garage. Where you have all your cars parked. How many of them? 100 cars. Did they fall out of the sky? No. That required a lot of work. Right? You had to go hunting. You had to earn. You had to spend. You had to find the right car, acquire it, maintain it, keep it safe, alarms, CCTV, security, service, right? All that, the documents, right? You got to go through all of that. So anyhow, you have now acquired your 100 cars, right? Right, it's time for a chitta to be born. Now it's time for the chitta to arise. What happens when a chitta arises? How many objects can a chitta take at once? One. Can you upgrade and get a chitta that takes 2 objects at once? Can anyone have any special privileges? If you are richer, can you have maybe 2, 3 objects at once? That's all fair for everyone, right? Whether you're a king or a beggar, each chitta can only take 1 object. Yeah? Okay. So a chitta arises. You look at 1 car. Among the 100 cars, you look at 1 car. 1 car takes your attention at that moment. The chitta arises. But the chitta doesn't arise in isolation. You have another process that's running alongside that. What is that? The defilement process. Because there's the skandha process and the defilement process. Do you remember what I'm talking about here? What is the skandha process? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, which is the perception process. And the defilement process is what? Because of ignorance, there's attachment, then there's vexation, then there's abhisankhara, and there's bhava, and there's jati. See, the moment jati arises, now you're in this box. Yeah? So until jati happens, or rather the defilement process, until the defilement process runs, this box is empty. This box is empty. But the moment this defilement process runs, now this box is occupied by your sense of self. Now you are in that box. When you are in this box, ladies and gentlemen, these 2 boxes, when one of these boxes is occupied, the other must also be occupied. That is the rule. You can't break that rule. It is the way it is. That's a law. So when this box is occupied, something must also be occupied here. So when this thought arises, then you're looking at the 1 out of your 100 cars. What's in this now? Which car? 1 car. Where are the other 99 cars? In the rest box, along with the neighbors' cars. Why only the neighbors? All the other cars. In your street, then your country, the rest of the world. All the other cars in the rest of the world are in this box, but not just the cars. Let's not stop there, because it's not just all the other cars in the world that are in this box. Everything else in the world is in this box, including your life. Including your spouse. And your children. See, you have the right answers. And your house. And your houses. And every other possession that you would otherwise say belong to you. When the defilement process runs, ladies and gentlemen, this defilement process is so wicked. It strips you of all your possessions. This is the punishment for theft from the universe. The moment the defilement process runs, you have to put something into this box because that is what you want to separate now. You are separated out, so you feel that you are a self. The object of your separation goes into that box, and literally everything else in this world goes into the everything else box, the rest box. None of those things belong to you at that time. Now, for this to make a little bit more sense, I want to talk to you a little bit about what this belonging is. Is this very foreign to you, this feeling? Belonging? No, you're all very familiar with the feeling of belonging, right? The top that you're wearing, your shirt or whatever you're wearing, who does that belong to? You just focus on that sense of belonging. You have a sense of this is mine. Yeah? Your phone, who does that belong to? You. That is the sense of belonging I'm talking about. Your spouse, your children, your family, your friends, they belong to you. Your car belongs to you, your house belongs to you, your pillow belongs to you, your plate, that belongs to you. Your body belongs to you. So you're all very familiar with this feeling of belonging. But that's the problem. It's only a feeling. It's only a feeling. Feelings exist when they exist, not when they don't. Let's take it slow. Feelings exist when they exist and not when they don't. It's a bit like this. There's a ceiling above our head, isn't there? Or a roof above our head. When did that roof come here? It was there from the beginning. But when did it come to your attention? The moment I mentioned it. So until then, was there no ceiling? There was a ceiling, or a roof rather. There was a roof, but the roof only came to your perception the moment I said it. Until then, it wasn't there. That's because the roof is a physical object. The roof is a physical object. So physical objects exist in this world whether or not you think about them. But such is not true about emotions. Do you see where we are going with this? If you don't like what I'm about to say, please leave the room now. Because I've given the painkillers now, it's time for the operation. Unlike emotions, physical objects exist whether or not you think about them. So you have a liver. Were you thinking about it until I said the word liver? No, but was it not there? It was. Right? It was always there. That's because the liver is a physical object. Whether or not you think about it, it's there. What about fear? Are you all afraid of anything right now? Like this moment? No, I'll finish the sermon on time, but that aside. Are you all afraid of anything right now? No. Why not? Because there's no reason for fear to arise. So if fear isn't, why is it that fear only exists when it exists, when you think about it? Because it's an emotion. It's not a physical object. Emotions only exist when you feel them. When the mind thinks them up, that's when emotions exist. At all other times, they don't. I'll throw a few other examples. Jealousy. It only exists when you think it up. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. Anger. It only exists when you think it up. Otherwise it doesn't exist. But this, it's there. Why is this here? Whether you think it or think of it or not. It's a physical object. This is Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. These are the 4 basic elements. This is not the Chitta. But anything mental can only exist or only exists when you conceptualize it, when you conceive it mentally. When it's mentally conceived, it exists for the duration of that conception. Once that ceases, it's not to be seen. Is that fair? So things like lust, greed, anger, even hunger. So hunger is not a physical object. The stomach is a physical object. Food, whether it's in or out of your stomach, they are also physical objects. But hunger itself is not a physical object. Therefore, for hunger to exist, you must conceive it. You must perceive it. So if the perception process stops, so does what? Hunger, anger, lust, greed, and what else? Sense of belonging. Your sense of belonging. Your sense of belonging, or belonging as a concept, as a feeling, will only exist for as long as your mind keeps cooking it up. In other words, what belongs to you is only what's in this box. How many objects can go in that box at once? How many? 1. Exclusively 1. Only 1 object can go into that box. And the moment something goes into that box, what's the curse? Everything else in this world lands in the neighboring box, which is the everything else box, with the exception of you. Then tell me, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at that 1 out of your 100 cars, what things belong to you? Just that 1 car. What about your children? What about your house? What about your swimming pool? What about your watch? What about your friends? What about your family? What about all other things that belong, that come into your property, portfolio, yes. Everything else in your estate, where's all that? That's in the everything else box. See, do you see the rules of the game are this? Oh, the rules of the game is this. If you want to have the feeling of belonging, you can only have 1 object. That's the rule. If you want to enjoy or experience the feeling of belonging, you can only do that with 1 object. If you want to belong, if you want to have something else towards which you want to have the sense of belonging, what must you do with the first one? You've got to surrender it. Put it into this box and take 1 out of that box. 1 out of that box. So, what is your net worth? Let's take the richest man in the world. How many houses do you think he must have? How many estates must he have? How many cars must he have? Just think about it for a second. Let's assume that he has a garden of mango trees. He has a garden of mango trees. Or he has a vineyard. In where he grows his grapes. Because he has custom-made wine for him. It's bespoke, made just for him. So he goes into his garden. And in there are those mango trees, there are the grape vines and so on. He has 100 mango trees and he looks at one. You look at one mango tree. What happens to all his other possessions? They're all in the everything else box. His money, his wealth, his family, his cars, everything else is in the everything else box, because that is the rule of this game. If you want to experience a sense of belonging, you have to and you must pick one object, never two, never any more than that. Do you see, the moment you want to belong, either to someone or you want something to belong to you, the universe or the rules of this game, it strips you of all your possessions, all your belongings, and it stoops you to the level of a beggar. Because then it's only that object that belongs to you and nothing more. There's more to come in this conversation, but I want you to first understand the premise within which this problem operates. Let's take this as an example, okay? You want to go and eat at a posh restaurant. There's one called Yetanaran. Very posh. They don't just fill your stomachs. They fill you with the Dhamma as well. Very posh. So let's say you want to go to a posh restaurant. And every dish there is at least a couple of $100. Expensive restaurant. Okay? So let's say you've ordered your dish and you picked it off a menu, and this particular dish that you ordered is, say, $250. Expensive. I mean, expensive, very expensive by my standards. Maybe not for you, I'm sorry. No insult. Maybe that's just dessert for you, but very expensive by my standards. So $250 for this very expensive dish. It's now arrived on your table, right? So you take a bite. And unfortunately, so you ordered fish. It is fish, but when they deboned it, one little bone somehow remained, and that bone ended in your fish. And as you put that into your mouth, that bone went and got stuck between your teeth. How much for the dish? $250. What's in between your teeth now? That fish bone, right? So, you're in a posh restaurant, so you have to behave posh, right? You can't just go doing excavations, right? You can't just go digging in front of everyone else. So, you might use a napkin, try and cover your mouth with it, and, just try and do a little bit of something. But let's say that it's just gone right between two of your teeth, right? And it's just so adamant, it's not going to come out. So stubborn. It's a stubborn bit of fish bone. Not going to come out today, not until you go home and brush. Right? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, for the remainder of your dinner, so you already fill in the blanks, aren't you? Wait till I finish. For the remainder of your dinner, what will you be doing? What's your tongue going to be doing? Between every dialogue you have with the people around the table, right? You're only doing one of two things. Either you're listening, or you're trying to dig the bone out of your teeth, out of your gums. Right? So now tell me, how much is for the dish? $250. How many objects can a chitta take at once? Only one. Okay, so the moment that your tongue goes and rubs against that bone, what object has the mind taken at that point? The bone, the fish bone. That bit of fish bone. Yeah? So you keep rubbing your tongue against it, trying to push it out, because it's very irritating, isn't it, when that happens? So you try to keep taking it out of your gums, and every time you do that, you are in this box. The bone is in this box, and the $250 dish is in. What, man? What are you doing, ladies and gentlemen? What are you doing? That $250 dish is in the everything else box. It's not yours at that time, because you have separated. Because of this separation nonsense that happens in your mind, that bone is now the object of your separation. So there's you and the bone, and the $250 dish is in the everything else box. You tell me whether it was worth paying $250 for that. I want to think long and hard about these truths. This is not just for amusement. This is what you do to yourselves. Until and unless you stop that separation process, you are so poor that no matter what your net worth is, how much you have to your name, what heirlooms you have, what has been passed down to you through inheritance, no matter what you have, even if you own the whole world and then some, whatever is the object of your thoughts, the moment the separation process runs, that's the only thing that belongs to you, because of your mentality of separation. Because the moment you separate, ladies and gentlemen, everything in the universe goes into the everything else box. Nothing else is yours at that time. So this man was at the restaurant, $250 dish, sits there with his cutlery, but that bones get stuck in his teeth. The only thing that belongs to him right now is that bit of bone. Okay, let's say that is a very, it's very rare that such a thing could happen with a $250 dish. Okay. There's a gecko on the wall. And the gecko goes, the moment that takes your attention, you still have the separation process. There's you, that's a jati. What's in the jati Dhamma box? The gecko noise. Right? That goes into the jati Dhamma. What about the $250 dish? In the everything else box. What's the point? So you tell me then, for as long as you have this separation process running in your mind, what is your net worth? How much do you have? What do you have? Who do you have? And this is while you are fully awake. See, take the watch that you put on your wrist. Somewhere very expensive watches. Branded, expensive watches. Let's say there's a watch you can buy for, I don't know, how much can you buy a watch for? Not Pamuma watches. Like those really expensive watches. 5 million? They go as far as that, even more, right? 5 million? Okay, 5 million. 5 million you pay and buy a watch. You buy that to keep yours for how long? You buy that for how long? To keep it yours for how long? For as long as you want, as in your lifetime, right? Until you dispose of it or sell it off to someone or gift it to someone, it's got to be yours, hasn't it? Therefore, you pay that money, you pay the price because you want it to be yours for now and forever, at least for a lifetime. That is why it's so expensive. If it was only pay as you use, what if that watch was pay as you use? So you can pay for it, wear it, and return it. You don't have to pay for while it's not in your possession. It wouldn't be that expensive, would it? It's like when you hire stuff. Yeah? If you hired the same watch, would it be as expensive? No. But really, what are you doing when you put that watch on your wrist? You pay to keep it. You take freehold possession of it. You buy it. You really buy it. And buy it so that it's yours for the rest of your life. But it is only yours when it occupies this box. Only when at those moments where you look at the watch. Those are the only moments where that watch is yours. Or when you think about that watch. Those are the only moments where you at least experience the feeling of belonging. Let's not forget that belonging is simply a mental conceptual idea. It's not real. It's not something physical, therefore it's not real. But at least the thought of belonging, this thought of at least the feeling that, that good feeling like I have a really good watch, even that is only with you when you think about the watch. At all other times, it's not yours. At all other times, it's not yours. So when you look at your car, where's the watch? It's in the everything else box. When you look at the watch, where's the car? It's in the everything else box. So let's say you're driving a really expensive car along the street and a dog jumps in front. Now what's in your world? You. The dog is in the Jati Dhamma box. Where's the car? It's in the everything else box, along with every other car. So technically speaking, although you took ownership of that watch by paying 5 million, what would have been more reasonable? To only pay for those moments where that box occupies this box, that watch occupies this box, right? But can you arrange for that? Can you negotiate that? Can you go to the store and negotiate that? As in pay as you separate? It's not pay as you use, really. It's pay as you separate. Because only when you separate does something becomes yours. And everything else becomes not yours. So take that man who has a mango garden. There are 100 mango trees and he looks at one tree. What happens to the other 99 trees? Not his. You take a basket of fruit. You look at one fruit. What happens to the others? It's in the everything else book. That one fruit that took your attention, that is yours. It's not really yours actually. Because there is no such thing called yours. It's not a physical thing. It's only an emotion, like fear. That's why I talked about that before. Like jealousy and greed and lust and anger. These are merely emotions that arise in the mind. And they are there for the duration of that, but as soon as it's gone, it's gone. That's it. See, do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, how poor you must be when you have this separation process running? You only have that one object as a personal belonging. Everything else goes into the everything else box. But to take possession of those things, you paid the full price. Yes or no? You paid full price to take possession of all those things. You didn't pay for the watch just for those moments where you separated. You didn't pay for the car for the moments you separated. You didn't pay for the house for the moments you separated. You paid it for full-time use, but you use it hardly at all. If all you wanted was to tell the time, 500 rupees, you can get a watch that tells the time, just as accurately as the 5 million. I mean, what's the difference between one femtosecond and another femtosecond? Let's say my watch is accurate to the femtosecond. That's milliseconds, microseconds, picoseconds, attoseconds, and femtoseconds. Who cares? You don't even know the difference between a millisecond and another millisecond. Even seconds we are not interested in. Right? We work by minutes. So who cares whether your watch is accurate, is an atomic clock. It's regulated and synchronized to an atomic clock somewhere. Who cares? Why do you need to wear that on your wrist? I mean, they'll need that at the CERN laboratory, perhaps, where they do experiments on stuff, but you need that on your wrist? For time to be so precise? Well, that's not to just tell the time then. It's for something more than that. That's okay. In this game, everything is okay. Right? Everything is okay. We are not here to scorn ourselves or mock ourselves, right, with contempt or derision. It's just to understand how these minds work and why they work the way they do. That's all. That's why it's all okay. Everything is okay under this roof. But please think about this for a second. You paid 5 million to take complete and full-time ownership of that watch. But it only becomes yours when it occupies this box. And it can only occupy that box when there's nothing else in it. Because no two things can take that space up at the same time. So what would be a more reasonable negotiation? Talk to the owner or the shopkeeper and say, at the end of the month, I will send you an invoice, or rather you send me an invoice and I will send you a log, of all the times where that watch was in this box. You work out the math and you tell me how much I owe you. Isn't that the more reasonable negotiation? But would that work? No, it wouldn't work. Because it's a physical object, it cannot be in two places at once. That's why it wouldn't work. Therefore, when one individual in this room wants to have that feeling, whenever they want to have that feeling, no one else in this room can also have that, because it's a physical object. So it can't be in two homes at once. Therefore, they must let you have it for yourself. But do you use it full time? No. Then why pay 5 million for that? That's my question. See, these material possessions, ladies and gentlemen, they enslave you. I really hope you get the what I'm trying to get across to you here. The crux of this is they enslave you. Not only have you got to go and work your socks off and work hard, get loans out, right? Do weekends, do overtime, and earn enough to make these possessions yours. To purchase these objects, but you can't even have the enjoyment, the bliss of thinking that they're yours unless they occupy that box. And no two things can take that up at one time. And there's more. Although they can only take up that box one at a time, what about protecting them? physically. So when you protect your watch, do you not have to protect your wallet? When you protect your wallet, do you not have to protect your child? When you protect your child, do you not have to protect your car? And when you protect your car, do you not have to protect your wife? And when you protect your wife, do you not have to protect your mango tree at home? Mustn't all these things be protected simultaneously? But can you use them simultaneously? No. But they must be kept safe simultaneously. They must be guarded simultaneously. They must be maintained simultaneously. They must be insured simultaneously. Then the rent must be paid on these things simultaneously. So imagine you rented 2 houses. You have 2 houses you rent. One in London, one in Colombo. Let's say you rent 2 houses. Right? You have to pay the rent simultaneously. But you occupy them only one at a time. Isn't the same true here? And if you have to return the property back to its rightful owner at the end of your use, then you must protect them simultaneously. Is the same not true about all of your possessions? So don't you think that this is not a fair deal? That you ended up with the wrong end of the stick? Please think why you want this life for yourselves. After all, what is yours? Nothing is yours. All you have is a feeling of belonging, nothing more than that. It's just a feeling of belonging, like all those other emotions, because it's only an emotion. The sense of feeling is only an emotion. Yeah? So, but that feeling of emotion itself can only be experienced when that object occupies this box. And when that object is in this box, nothing else is in it with it. Everything else is in the everything else box. So all that hard work you put into acquire, all this wealth, all that property, all of that doesn't really belong to you at that time, because it is just as much as everyone else's, as much as the next door neighbor's car. You never say the next door neighbor's car is yours, right? Just as much as you don't say that the next door neighbor's car is yours, your second car, which has not taken your attention right now, that's also not yours. Come on. Please think for yourselves why you want this. Otherwise, you've got to go and change the rules of the game. Redesign the chitta, re-engineer the chitta, so that the chitta can take multiple objects at once. Who's up for that? Anyone? Let's go re-engineer the chitta. Let's do chitta version 2. Shall we go into some laboratory and cook up a new version of the chitta? Shall we genetically modify the chitta and somehow equip it with some way to take in more than one object at once? This is what this defilement process does to you. You might think that you have a lot, but that, because of your theft from the universe, you are punished immediately. You are immediately punished for theft from the universe. That is what? When you think that something belongs to you, everything else, even if conventionally they belong to you, only a convention, right? Even if conventionally you have so much more to your name, all of that goes into the everything else box, along with what? Along with everything else and everyone else's everything else. So are you rich? Here's the next half. If that wasn't enough, here's the next half. This is the reason why you are so easily distracted. This is why your mind cannot settle on one thing. This is why you're not content. Let me explain. The moment something falls into this box, okay? The moment something falls into this box, what did the Buddha say? Jati Pacha. Yes. Jati Pacha on Wednesdays, Jara. On Thursdays, Vyadi. On Fridays, Marana. Right? So it only happens on Wednesdays. Yeah? Soka Parideva on weekends. Dukkha Domanasa Upayasa once a year. Dukkha Kandasa Samdeva once every 4 years. Yeah? Once every leap year. Is that so? No, when does Jara, Marana, Shoka, Parideva, Dukkha, Domanasa come? Immediately. Immediately. So here's what the Buddha means by that. The moment something goes into this box, this is golden advice, ladies and gentlemen. Please try and understand this for your sake. I hope your merits are coming to your rescue right now. Because if merits that don't come at this point, you kick them away, there's no point on having them at all. What's the point of merits? What's the point of merits that don't come to you at this point? Jati Pacha Jara, not tomorrow, not in 2 days' time. Jati Pacha Jara, instantly, immediately. Jati Pacha Marana, immediately. This is disease, decay, death, loss, fear, grief, and all these emotions. They happen the moment something falls into that box. I'm really trying to bring it to life for you to help you understand the perils of ownership. And it's not even real. It's only a feeling of ownership. But this is why you cannot come forth into the Sasana. Because you think you are attached to all these things that belong to you. You take pride in ownership. That's the problem. You think you are so blessed to have so much. I'm not even talking about merits. Merits okay. Wisdom okay. Sila, Samadhi, Prajna fine. I'm talking about these material things that you are struggling to leave behind. Because you think it's a blessing. You tell me whether it's a blessing. The moment you put something into this ownership box, immediately comes Jati, Pacha, Jara, Vyadi, Marna, Shoka, Parideva. Fear. Fear of loss, fear of destruction, fear of danger, fear of theft. Name one thing that you have ownership of which you don't also have the fear of theft, destruction, damage, loss. Don't you constantly live in fear that something that belongs to you might be taken away from you? You might say, no, Swami, no, I have enough safety precautions. Why do you have the safety precautions? Because of loss, because of the fear of loss. Because you know the threat is always looming. It's always there, it's in the air, you just can't see it. When you have your phone in your hand, right? Here's what happens. I really hope you can try and be as sensitive as I would like you to be to these emotional traumas that you put yourselves through, ladies and gentlemen. When you have your phone in your hand, this phone that cost you a few $100, when you have that phone in your hand, you're constantly in fear that you might drop it. Constantly. You might ask me, I don't really feel like that. I don't always feel that I might drop it. No, you are. But you are constantly reassured because it's still in your hand. That's why the sense of fear is not overwhelming. Because immediately afterwards you are reassured, okay, it's still in your hand. It's in my hand. It's in my hand. It's in my hand. Will it fall? No, it's in my hand. Will it fall? No, it's in my hand. Will it fall? No, it's in my hand. You do this with everything. Why? Jati Pacha, Jara, Vyadi, Marana, Shoka, Parideva. All that. Fear. Fear. Fear strikes you immediately. not tomorrow. When you stick your finger into a fire, when does it burn? In a week's time? Immediately, right? Just like that. If you lived in a cold country and there's a blizzard outside, you open the front door, there's a gust of wind, cold wind, right, that just comes and attacks you, and you feel that cold run through your body. How long does it take? Immediately. You dip into a river. How long does it take you to get wet? Huh? You dip your toe, you dip your foot, you dip your leg, you dip your body into the river. How long does it take you to get wet? Instantly. In the same way, the moment something falls into this box, the instant something falls into this box, ladies and gentlemen, fear strikes. Fear of theft, fear of loss, fear of damage. But it's not overwhelming. Yes, I agree with that. It's not overwhelming because you're constantly reassured. Your five senses keep telling, no, it's fine, 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 it's fine. You know, like those baby, what do you call them? Baby monitors, right? When you have a baby, you put them in the cot so you can go and work at, other places in your home. You put a monitor, right? And it keeps, you hear the baby crying and so on, right? Your five senses are constantly reassuring you that things are okay. Why do you need to be reassured like that? Is that not because you're in constant fear? Is this the life that you want to celebrate once a year? 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, now 35. Can't wait till I'm 40. Is this the life you want to celebrate once a year? Blow in candles, cutting cake, inviting your friends, throw in a party, throw in a disco and dancing? What are you dancing about? Have you lost your marbles? I mean, seriously, this is the life that you want to live, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Please think. Why have you invited me to come and talk to you? To come and speak to you? Isn't it for me to open your eyes to reality? They don't even belong to you. It's only a feeling of belonging, nothing more than that. But if that's the reason why you can't live your lay lives, if that's the reason you're still stuck to your ways, your relationships, your material possessions, if that's why you can't leave your cars back, you can't leave your house, you can't leave your toys, you can't leave whatever it is that you can't leave behind, your family, your friends, your wives, your whatevers, your husbands, if that is the reason you can't leave them back, seriously, look at where they leave you. You can't leave them, but look at where they leave you. That's why I call it a hellhole. The moment you put something into this box, fear strikes. That's what strikes, fear. You might think, no, it brings me a sense of joy, Swami Naza. No, that's just relief. Relief from vexation. It's not the object that brought you that joy. It's merely the search, the venture for it. And you can now finally take a deep breath and go, acquired it finally. And the moment you've said that, what happens next? Fear strikes. Grief strikes. Why? I don't know, honestly. Give me one good reason. Don't give me two. Give me one. I won't bother you for two. Give me one good reason. Give me one good reason why I should return to my lay life. Okay, leave your side. Give me one good reason why I should return to my lay life. With this understanding that I have, right? With this wisdom that I am gifted with, give me one good reason why I must leave my lay life, leave monkhood, leave this noble life and go back to a lay life. A lay life of possession, a lay life for the feeling of the tickle of belonging. It's a tickle, nothing more than that. It's a tickle of belonging. The tickle of possession, the tickle of thinking that you have someone to yourself, you have some things to yourself, personal belongings, because these are the things you struggle to leave behind. These are those things you can't leave back. Give me one good reason. For me, you can't give one good reason, but for you, you have 100. How is that? How does that add up? You have 100 reasons why you can't go forth, right? 100 good reasons. They are good reasons. So you say, what are they? Swaminatha can't leave my children behind. Children, okay. Put your children into this box. You can't put children into this box. You can put one into the box. Where are the other children? In the everything else box, along with the neighbors. Along with the neighbors. You know the orphanage just down the street? Those children there? Your other children are with them. You know the children in the slums? Yeah? That you pity all the time? Your other children are with them. Because it's there in the everything else box. Only one child can go in there at once. Because your chitta can only take one object at once. Either change the rules there, and do something, go into some laboratory, go into some engineering faculty, right, and do some magic there, and do this instead of this, right? Like maybe have one chitta that's like big chitta like this. So it can take many objects at once. Do that. And come and let me know once that's done. Then at least you can take 3 objects into this box at once. Still there'll have to be everything else in the other box, right? But 3 objects you can take into this, if you can manage to fit 3 objects into one chitta. Why don't you understand that you are nothing more than a chitta perceiving an object? And you can't do anything more than that. Who do you think you are? Honestly. Why do you big yourself up so much? Why do you think that you are someone who you can never be? Why do you think that you are an individual? You're not. Why do you think you're someone who owns a car, has a house, the house has a swimming pool, has a tennis court, has a gymnasium? You have maids, you have a wife, you have children. Why do you think that you are that? You are not. All of the other things are in the everything else box along with the neighbors. Only one object goes into this box at a time, and that's also a mental box. It's not a real box. But the consequences, they are very real. The sense of belonging is only an imagination, but the consequences are very real. Everything you put into this box, you have to guard, you have to keep safe, you have to protect. That's why I said your wristwatch only tells you the time maybe once or twice a day, but you have to keep it safe 24/7. And you think that's worth the price? You think that's worth it? Why do you do this to yourselves? I mean, what's in it for you? You tell me, please. What's in it for you? Are you somehow getting a better deal than I am somehow in life? Have you made a special deal with the Mara? That he somehow, does not strike you with fear, grief, sorrow, and these emotions? No jara, marna, shoka, parideva for you, just jati? Did you somehow negotiate some special terms with the universe that I am somehow not privy to? Because if the rules are the same for you and me, then salvation has to be the same for you and me. Freedom must be the same for you and me. That's why I say you have been enslaved by these material possessions that you wish to surround your lives with. And these material possessions, some of them are living, some of them are non-living. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, they have enslaved you. Enslaved you to a life full of lifelong suffering. There's not one thing that you can name that belongs to you that you are not scared of losing, afraid of losing. And therefore you must protect. Why do you want that life? Honestly. I mean, I don't know. What are you like? Why? Because you're desperately seeking salvation. You always say, I want Nibbāna, I want freedom. I want to be free. That's why I'm here. Once a week at least I bring myself here because I want to find the truth. I'm sick and tired and exhausted of this life. So I really want to find my salvation. Okay, well then, what more do you need? That is the only reasonable excuse, I think. Age, yes, okay, a limiting factor. Duties and responsibilities, okay, limiting factor. But that is not true for all of you. And I don't mean you, I mean generally you. People listening to me today, people listening to this tomorrow, in a week's time, in a year's time, in 10 years' time, in 100 years' time. Everyone. I'm speaking to the whole world. I'm looking at a few hundred people, but I'm speaking to the whole world. I'm speaking to every man, woman, and child in this world who are enslaved by their own ignorance and attachment. Why? What's in it for you? Give me one good reason, ladies and gentlemen, why you wish to remain in this worldly, mundane existence of acquiring personal belongings, protecting them, keeping them safe, chasing the thieves away, running to the police station, filing your complaints, then filing lawsuits and try and somehow regain possession of them. Well, why? Why? Because you think they all belong to you. Only one thing belongs to you, that is whatever is in this box. Everything else is in the everything else box. But you have paid for all those things for full-time possession. Full-time possession. How does that make sense? What sense does it make? Economical sense? Logical sense? What sense does it make? It's nonsense. That's the sense it makes, nonsense. I'm not speaking to you with contempt, I'm speaking to you with love and compassion. Because I love you. I want to see what you can be. I have your future in my mind, and I want you to realize that. How many weeks have you been coming here now? How many Sundays have you sacrificed? Let's call it a sacrifice. Because remember your previous life, this would be a sacrifice. Your previous life not in the life before this life, but the life that you are used to living, this would be a sacrifice along in those terms. Now, the rest of the week is a sacrifice. Right? But you've been making this commitment. It's a weekly commitment. You wake up in the morning, you cook something to offer to Swaminathan and Pindapata. You get ready, pack up, do all that. Have to sometimes get permission from everyone else, your spouses, your children, your parents, your siblings, your this, that. Even the neighbor has to approve your visits. Right? All of that, and your friends who are saying, hey, what's that place? Don't go to that place. They will completely brainwash you and they're distorting the Dhamma and this, that, and whatnot. I mean, how many dissenting voices have you had to overturn, or you've had to convince to try and get yourself admit one ticket to be here? So how many weeks now? How many months now? 2 years now, coming up to 2, 3. Then why do you not want to come closer to the Sasana? Because the Sasana is the only place where you can be free of this nonsense. The moment you put something in here, something falls into there. And the moment something is there, everything else falls into this. The problem with that, the moment something falls into this, you have to protect it. You have to fight for it. It is a struggle. The moment something falls into this, that is you, now it's a fight for yourself as well. That's why you always feel under threat. You're always worried someone might insult you. That's because you put yourself into this box. Empty this box and see whether you'll feel insulted, offended. That's how you feel that way. Someone calls you names, you're offended. Someone calls you a donkey, you're offended. Why? Say, I'm not a donkey. Well, who are you? I'm a human being. I'm a man. See? I'm this one, in this box. Don't call me a donkey. That's what you say. Why does it offend you? Someone calls you fat, you're offended. Someone calls you dark, you're offended. Someone calls you fair, you're offended. Someone calls you short, you're offended. Someone calls you tall, you're offended. Someone says, are you deaf? You're offended. Every blooming thing offends you. Why? Because you have a perfect image of whatever it is has to fit into that box. So when something contradicts that, now there is friction. Now there's a fight. Whenever you want something, that goes into that box. And then from there on, your struggle is to somehow acquire it. That might sometimes be a material thing. It might be an experience. It might be to be somewhere or not to be somewhere, to go somewhere or not to go somewhere, to be with someone or to not be with someone. All sorts. At the workplace, at home, among your friends, in the party, it's all the same. It's just a different environment, that's all. Different party, same dance. That's what you lot are doing. It's just a different party. Why? I have to ask you because you are me and I am you. That's how I see the world. I wouldn't do what you're doing to yourself to myself. I wouldn't. That's why I ask you why you're doing this to me. I'm asking you why you are doing this to me. That's what I'm asking you. Because to me, you are me and I am you. Therefore, what you're doing to you, you're doing to me as well. Why are you doing this to me? What do I deserve? Why do I deserve this treatment? Why don't you open your eyes and see what's happening to you in broad daylight? Why do you fall for all those tales and all those lies? Why don't you bring yourself closer to the Sasana? Sasana is not a monastery. It is not the robe. It is not the Buddha. The Buddha himself found his salvation in the Sasana. It wasn't there when he was looking for it, therefore he discovered it. He had to uncover it. He uncovered the Sasana, he discovered the Sasana. He didn't create the Sasana. He uncovered it. And he said, oh, there it is. Now finally found it. He was asleep. So he woke up. So we call him the awakened one. He's not a creator, he's not an inventor. We don't call him the world's greatest inventor, do we? We can call him the world's greatest discoverer. He discovered what was always there. So that's all there. The programs are there. The mission is very much alive. And it's buzzing with energy. It's vibrant. There's a community. There's safety. There's a safe harbor. You can take your time. There's no rush, but you have to start. What journey ever ended? Only the journeys that started. Which journeys never ended? The journeys that never started. Those journeys never ended. Your journey can't end, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to say. Because you won't start. Because your material possessions, things that belong to you, they matter to you so much. Your car is more precious to you than your Nibbāna. Your house is more precious to you. Your property is more precious to you. Your estates are more precious to you. Your business is more precious to you. Your enterprise is more precious to you. You could be a business mogul. But when the gecko goes chuk chuk chuk, what business do you have? There's only one thing in your world at that time, that's the gecko. You have 5 sense doors that keep stealing you, because these 5 sense doors constantly bring you sights and sounds and smells and taste and touch, as if to punish you, honestly, as if to punish you. They just keep on bombarding you with sights, sounds, smells, taste and touch, as if to punish you, because as if they know that you have this separation process running inside you. Therefore, the moment they come and drop something into this box, right, that's it, you're done. You're done for. So your sights, your eyes always come and keep dropping something in here. Because when it does that, then it's you and it, and everything else is not yours. When this happens, ladies and gentlemen, you feel like a beggar. You feel so inadequate. That is why you can't focus on one thing. That's why you are not content. This discontentment comes from this. Let me explain where this discontentment stems from. The moment something goes into this box, your expectation was that it was going to fulfill you and make life jolly from there on. But the reality is that the moment something goes into that box, immediately afterwards come the 11 great fires. Not tomorrow, not on Wednesdays. It happens immediately. And once you start to experience that, now you want escape from that. That's what you want then. You want escape. You want freedom from that. So the next thing you want is to just shift that attention from that to something else, because you don't know how to free yourself from the 11 great fires that come out of that experience. Take, for example, you look at your car. Right? Your car is the object that comes to mind. That goes into this box. The moment the car goes into this box, now the 11 great fires strike you. And the 11 great fires pertaining to your car. These are the 11 great fires that come aflame in your heart, in your mind. Do you know how to escape from that? Do you know how to free yourself from the fear of theft of your car? You think putting your car alarm systems and linking it to your phones and all that is going to work. No, the fear still remains. Right? All you've done is come up with some mitigation strategies. Why do you want to mitigate something? Because it's still there. Because if the fear is gone, then remove the security systems. If the fear is gone. Why do you carry a walking stick? Okay, you don't now, but you will soon. Why do you carry a walking stick? For fear of what? Falling. So if you're going to tell me that when you have a walking stick, you are now free of the fear of falling, then put the walking stick to the side and go walking. Would you? No. You would always carry your walking stick with you because you still have the fear of falling. You can't free yourself from that. The walking stick is merely a mitigation strategy. This is called risk mitigation. The risk is always there. That's why you carry the walking stick with you. So the fear is not gone. It's still there, very much so. So likewise, you put an alarm system in your car, in your house, right? You do the world's best security alarm systems. And then what? You're going to tell me now you're free of the fear. Then after you've done that, remove it all. Leave it for a day and take it all out. No, the fear is always there, but you have the reassurance that your alarm system will do something about it. It will be there to give you some sense of safety. Why do you need that safety? It's like a clap. There's the fear and there's the mitigation. There's the fear and there's the reassurance. See? So you're happy. If you're happy and I don't know how to put this to you in words that you can understand. This is how you are happy, honestly. Here's your vexation, and here's your relief from the vexation. That's why they say, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Clap your hands. You keep clapping. Why can't you extend to yourself just a little bit of the love that I have for you? Why do you deprive yourself of that freedom? You're not going to remain humans forever. Come on. Right? Let's accept that truth. You're not going to remain humans forever. Only until your merits last will you remain human. The moment your merits have been expired, right, then it's anybody's guess. Like a dry leaf that has come loose from its twig or its branch, right? As the wind blows and flows, right? The leaf will blow with it. Who knows where it's going to fall? Your lives are so unpredictable. Not just life itself, but where you will be after this life. You're still able-bodied. Why do you wait until you are disabled? You're still capacitated. Why do you wait until you are incapacitated? You still can do. Why do you wait until you cannot do? Why? Because the pull is too strong. That's why. The pull is too strong. Age, okay, my excuse. Responsibilities, duties, okay. But only you know the truth. Right? I don't need your truths or your truths disguised. Right? Don't dress it up. I don't need it. Don't dress up the truth in some fancy excuse or duty, responsibility. I don't need that. It's for your sake. If you're okay with that, if you're truly happy to accept that as a valid excuse, right? Fine, no problem. But Ask your heart, ask your conscience. I mean, I can't start monasteries all over the country. We've done what we can. And we have started programs. If you can come in and do this full time, you can become someone like me. If you want to trial it, see whether it's for you, then you have the pre-monk program. See whether it's for you. Recently another one bit the dust. Yeah? See? He was not even born to a Buddhist family. What do you have to say for yourselves then? He was not even born to Buddhist parents. But realize the truth. This is not a religion that we teach here. I'm not here to teach you Buddhism. I'm teaching you the truths of life, the Four Noble Truths. Have I explained to you or taught you anything here that only applies to Buddhists? Any of this only applies to the Buddhists? Does any of this only apply to those who believe in this? And if you don't believe it, okay, you're free. Is that so? This is a universal truth. It doesn't matter whether you believe in this or not. This is the truth. This is what happens to you. If you walk into a wall, you're going to bang your head, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you believe that's a real wall or not, you're going to bang your head. The same here. This is the truth. You put something into that box, then no sooner than you've done that, the 11 great fires strike you. You know this by experience, ladies and gentlemen, not just a lecture. You know this by experience. Life has taught you these lessons. Only you were never equipped enough to look at it from this angle, from this lens. That's all I'm doing. I'm taking your life experiences and turning them back around on you and say, look at this now. That's what I'm doing. Your own life experiences, I'm taking them out of you and turning them back around and say, hey, now look at this now. Isn't this what life has been to you? And I'm helping you make sense of your own life experiences. That's why true realization comes in life. This is the laboratory. The laboratory of life, the lab of life. Let's see, a young man who was not even born to Buddhist parents. For many years of his life, he studied a different religion. I'm not going to name it. Why am I not naming it? Why am I not naming the religion that he was a believer of? What his faith was? Because some might find it insulting or offensive. That's why. It is out of compassion. Otherwise, I could do a promotion for Buddhism, can't I? Look at all these people from all these other religions that come into Buddhism. I'm not here for propaganda. Not here for that. Not here to market Buddhism. Or this as a religion. I'm just here to save those who are meritorious enough to be saved. That's all I'm here to do. That's all we are here to do. That's what this mission is about. To save those who are now ripe for the plucking. We will fertilize until you are ripe, but I don't know how long we can do it. Because everything that has a start also has an end. Including Jetvanarama Buddhist Monastery. Including the Sri Sambuddha Sasana. That's why we say, long live the Sri Sambuddha Sasana, not live forever the Sri Sambuddha Sasana, because that is unrealistic. All it takes, ladies and gentlemen, is to understand. That's it. The moment you realize this, right? The moment you realize this, you will discover that you will understand this is what I've been looking for all my life. The only thing that is between you and your coming close to the Sasana is your understanding. For understanding, you need merit. Because merit brings you close to Kalyana Mitras. Not friends who you associate for benefits, not that. This is noble association, noble friendship. People who look at you simply as chittas that suffer. Whenever people ask me, why do you love us? Why do you love me? Because you suffer. I used to say, because I suffer. At least, not in those words, but today I realize I used to love people because I suffered. Because I wanted their association. I wanted to look at them. I wanted to feel them. I wanted to touch them. I wanted to hear them. I wanted them to be mine. Meaning, I suffered. The last person you should fall in love with is someone who expects something from you. Because it's a recipe for disaster. If you fall in love with someone who expects something from you, you can never get happiness out of that relationship. You will get pleasure out of it, not happiness. They're not one and the same. If you really want happiness out of a relationship, fall in love with someone who doesn't expect you to love them back. They are happy with a one-sided love relationship, one way. They're happy with that. Can you understand, ladies and gentlemen, why it's impossible to be content when you go out, when you take this pursuit of material acquisition? That's why the richest man in the world cannot stop. That's why he cannot stop. That's how this goes all the way up to 100. That's why he couldn't stop at 99. Because what happens with the 99th one? The remaining 98, where are they? In the everything else box. And the 99th one, right? He hasn't acquired the 100 yet. The 99th one, the moment he puts into that box, what happens after that? The 11 great fires. Do you understand how the 11 great fires work? You don't have to think of all 11 of them, just generally. At least you understand that when you have something in your possession, something that you feel belongs to you, who is the guardian now of that object? You are. Who has to protect it? You have to. So who is constantly in fear that something unwanted might happen to it? You are. I mean, that's what you exchange at the store. Here's my money, give me your worries. Right? That's what you do. Go to a car showroom, here's my money, give me your worries. So the car shopkeeper does what? He gives you one of his worries. What worries? Protecting it. The worry that whether he might be able to sell it or not. He sells you that worry. Because now, after a while, who has to sell that car? You have to sell the car. Don't you inherit that as well when you buy the car? Will I be able to sell it? Isn't that why you check the resale value of objects when you buy them? Ayyo. Honestly. No one here is old enough to be a Sila Shravaka. No one here is too old to be a Sila Shravaka. No one here is too old to be a Sila Shravika. No one here is too old to be a Sila Vasi. You might be too old to be an Anagarika or an Anagarika, but no one is too old to be one of the others. The only difference between those two is, one, you are resident at the monastery, the other is you are resident close to the monastery. That's the only difference. The teachers are the same. The teaching is the same. What more do you want? We eat the same rice. We have the same meals. We have the same gilampasa. We sit in the same Dhamma hall. We do the same merits. We associate with the same companions, noble companions. We worship at the same Buddha statue. We go to the same Chaitya. We do the same Buddha puja. Then, Or what is the pull? What is the reason? What more do you want out of your lay lives? What is the reason? What are the valid reasons for you to remain away from the Sasana? You tell me. What one possession is the thing that is most important to you? That you think is going to give you contentment and bliss and happiness and joy out of life? The moment you put something into this box, everything else goes into the everything else box. All of your possessions, material or otherwise, along with the neighbors. Why do I mean along with the neighbors? Means it's just not yours. I'm just trying to emphasize the point. It's not yours. Just as much as the neighbor's things are not yours, the moment you put something into this, everything else that you think is yours is also not yours. That's what I mean by that. Then you have the 11 great fires for everything that goes into, or the one thing that goes into that box. And the same you have for this thing, this box, because you always put yourself in that box. Therefore, offended, insulted, hurt, anger, jealousy, greed, all these thoughts, and all these emotions you have to now battle with. And everything about that, you have to battle with. See, these are just two heavy boxes of suffering that you have to carry on your shoulders. Hey! I mean, if you don't understand why, hey! I'm not frustrated, all right? I'm not frustrated. Because if you can frustrate me, then I haven't got anything from the Sasana. You can't frustrate me. I'm not frustrated. But I'm trying to convince you to save yourselves. You will not have this forever. Name a handful of other people who have spoken to you like this. Give me a handful of names. Who speak to you like your mother, like your father. Why should I care whether you get to Nibbāna or not? I won't need to until the day I realize that you are I and I am you. That's the day I begin to truly care. The day you realize that this is not a self but a sense of self, then you become one with everyone. That's where true care springs from. That's why we speak with passion. This is not frustration, this is passion. And I'm not ashamed to say that I'm passionate about your salvation. Because the problem is very real. I mean, if this problem was only for a weekend, then I wouldn't talk to you about it like this. But this problem is very real and you have to live with it. When the Buddhist time is done, we have another few thousand, no, not even that many, less than 2,000 years, but you won't live that long. So you have less than 200 years. Then, if you are born to non-Buddhist parents, then you have to be ever so fortunate to come into this kind of community, like one man did. But how many in the audience are non-Buddhists? So, work out the math. How much merit must one need to have been born to non-Buddhist parents and yet to come across a teaching? He said the other day, he came and said, Swaminatha, the day that I realized that I have found the truth. He said, one day in one of your sermons, he looked at the audience and said, I'm going to give you a time. You tell me whether you're going to be happy at that time or not. But I need a definitive answer. So he quoted, And he said, Swaminathan, no one in the audience volunteered a time. No one in the audience said, here's a time, Swaminathan, at this time I can promise you that I will be happy. Why? How can you be happy when you're always in this box and that box? How can you be happy? And then he said, Swaminathan, after that you said, you asked the audience to give you a time, any time of their choosing. And he said, you know what else, Swaminathan? You said, before you name the time, I will tell you I'm going to be happy. And then you say the time. It's like giving you the answer before you give me the problem. How is that possible? Only through the Sasana. He said, that's the day. I just overheard it, he said. I was just doing something else and I just overheard it. And it just stole my attention. I went, I looked, I listened, and I realized I'd found it. And he came. First he came alone, then he brought his friends. That's how this community works. That's how the Sangha works. That's how the Sangha works. Open your eyes and look at what you're doing to yourselves. Give me one good reason why you have to go back home today. Okay, exception, age. But then again, I said, none of you here are too old to be. That's Ravaka or Ravika. None of you. These are just names for proximity to the monastery or proximity to the Sasana. Those are just names. You don't have to be them. As long as you can come and visit the monastery. Visit the Sasana, not the monastery really. I'm not talking about the monastery. I'm not here to propagate the spread, tell the monastery to you. I'm here to sell the Sasana to you. I'm a member of the Sasana. I'm a minister of the Sasana. That's what I am. He's my king. And I'm one of his ministers. I'm here to sell the Sasana to you. That I will do unashamedly and unreservedly. I will sell you the Sasana. Because what has healed me, I don't need to reserve myself when I speak to you about it. Right? I will sing from the rooftops about the Sasana. Think me crazy for all I care. But for one who has truly understood the Sasana, you will realize this is why Swami Nohansa has been going on about this, speaking with such passion. This is what he has been trying to convince us of. That you will realize the moment you understand the Dhamma. This is not frustration speaking. At the end of this sermon, we will go back to how I was just as I walked in. I don't talk to you like this, right? Normally. I'm possessed when I get onto the Dharmasana. Possessed by the power of the Buddhas. This is Buddha Bale. Power of the Buddha. The power of the Buddha which helped him discover the noble truth all by himself. So please open your eyes and look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Save yourselves while the opportunity is still there. Make hay while the sun still shines. You will all be disabled one day. Right? That's a prophecy that you cannot disprove. You will all be disabled. I can point at each and every one of you and say this. You will all be disabled one day. You will all find yourselves lonely one day, with no one to care, no one to look after you. Because people will be far too busy attending to what? Their own selfish needs. You can't blame them for it, because they have no other refuge. Their refuge is themselves. When your refuge is yourself, you put yourself into this box, some other person into that box, everything else into this box, and then spend your entire life trying to fight for these, and to acquire these. That's what you do. So you will all be lonely one day. Your senses will give up on you. Your legs will give up on you. Your back will give up on you. So don't spend in more than what is necessary maintaining these machines that you have brought along with you. These are just mere muscle and bone. That's all it is. They will never be grateful to you for what you do for them. Trust me on that. They will never be grateful to you. They will always give up on you. When you need them most, they will give up on you. Trust me. When you need them most is when you feel desperation, when you're all alone and no one's there and you can't get out of your bed just to go to the washroom, they will give up on you. They will. You won't be able to hold the contents of your gut for very long. You won't. It's only a matter of time before you lose control of that as well. Your lungs will give up on you. Your memory will give up on you. Your brain will start giving up on you. One day your heart will give up on you. There's only one thing that doesn't give up on you, that's your noble friends. They don't give up on you until you give up on them. So, why? Why delay? Why delay? What is there to get by delaying this? What more is there to mull over? What more is there to ponder over? What more is there to contemplate? What more is there to seek? What more is there to go pursuing? What more? You tell me. Give me one more reason. Give me one more thing that is more precious to you than Nibbāna. Give me one more thing that you think is worth putting into that box and fighting for. When the moment you put it in there, the 11 great fires strike you, not the following day, but instantly and relentlessly and unforgivingly. Unforgivingly. You can't say, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't know." Okay. They don't care. You can't say, "I didn't know. I'm sorry." They don't care. That's why today I can't find one reason why someone must distance themselves or keep themselves away from the Sasana. One reason I can't find that. Because this is the only refuge. The only refuge. So please do take this very, very seriously. There's no bright side to this. Like I said, I'm always a glass half full person. But when it comes to ignorance and attachment, can't see one. I can't spot one to save my life. I can't find one. I can't find one good reason. Not one. I'm usually very good at spotting the bright side of things. Usually I'm very good at that. Ask our monks. Very good at that. But there's one thing I can't find a bright side to. There's no rainbow here. Only a dark sky. No rainbow. Why do you want to get wet? Why do you want to endure the storm? When there's paradise. So, please, serve yourselves. Do what is right. come out of this hellhole, one way or the other. One gentleman, from this, he took the leap. Another one bit the dust. And I share his story particularly because I typically don't say these stories until they're ready to go forth. For no other reason than to protect their integrity. In case they feel, it's not what they thought it was and they want to come back. So I honor that. I don't want to say something that they might later regret. That's right. But for someone to have been born to a different faith and to then come into this community, try this, come and spend brief stays at the monastery, experience it, spend time with the monks, talk to them, spend time with the anagarikas, talk to the anagarika mahatmas, right, and experience the love of Guru Hanaguru and the passion and the compassion, both, with which he guides us, and through him to see the Buddha, and then to make that determination. This is what I was born for. That's his story worth telling. That's a story truly worth telling. I share it so you can be inspired. I always tell you, if I can't, why can't you? I have one better now. I was born to Buddhist parents. So if he can, why can't you? Let's leave it there. Make sense? What we talked about today? So contemplate. Reflect on this. Reflect on all your possessions and see which box they are in. You will find that this box is never empty because you are always in here. You will find that the one thing that you are thinking about is always in that box, and everything else, along with the neighbors, is in the everything else box. Then ask yourself, what is my net worth? You will come to the conclusion, I am not worth. Then finally, you will realize that the only way to find worth, that which is worthy, is a sasana. So, may this talk help you to take that jump forward, at least spiritually. So I'm not upset, okay? I was not telling you off or having a go at you. I'm only speaking with passion because you are me and I am you. When I see someone doing something that I would not do to myself, then I have to ask them, why do you do this to me? Because I am you and you are me. Let's do the merit transfer. First and foremost, then, let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, by inviting the Swami Master to give the sermon, as well as contemplating the Dhamma and creating a conducive environment for all to practice the path. Let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to the Mahanayakateras, the Anunayakateras, as well as all the monks and nuns resident throughout the world who practice the path and have sacrificed their lives to protect and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us also transfer these merits to the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also transfer these merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident to the monastery and the anagarikas and anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take this moment to transfer this message to our parents, mothers and fathers, brothers, sisters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers, our teachers, employees, as well as our friends and anyone and everyone who have helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape and form to help make our lives as better as it could be. With the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill the Sasana and preserve the Sasana. Let us also transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, and those who have passed away in our name. Let us remind ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat, and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life as we do. Let us also transfer this message to members of the armed forces, as well as the police force who sacrifice their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as those who lost their lives in the war, be they friend or foe. Let us also transfer this message to those who lost their lives in natural calamities and disasters, such as the tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been parents to us, siblings to us, friends of ours, and with a sense of gratitude for all that they may have done for us, let us transfer these merits to all of them. And by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they redeem themselves to be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Vahanse or an Arahat Theranin Vahanse in this very life itself and in the era of the Sri Sambuddha Sasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Rajagiriya Dveshagin-nidatva Mohagin-nidatva Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatāratva Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatāratva Mamada Sielu Loka Sielu Satvayo Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatāratva Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatāratva Nibbāna Parama Sukhayan Sukhitatāratva Rajagiriya Dveshagiriya Mohagiriya Nivan Sapalameva Nivan Sapalameva Nivan Sapalameva Tumvange Susyananta Mahaguna Belen සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්‍යවම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛතර වෙත්වා. සාදු සාදු සාදු.